Three, two, one.
Yankees, A's, and I all head to the Bronx on Monday night for a three-gamer, and left field was where it was at as our group of knuckleheads were courting Brent Rooker, heckling Aaron Hicks, and the Yankees said that place looks fun as Brighty Waldo, Glaber, and DJ all hit two-run shots into the left field seats where I was sitting as the Yankees win 7-2 against old friend JP Sears. Game two was a super weird one as Jordan Diaz, the young prospect for the A's, hit three home runs and it did not matter at all. Yankees played five from dinks and dunks in the third inning. Glaber homer, Volpe triple, IKF extra base hit. We'll hear more about that a little bit later. And the final game was a mean one on a sunny hump day, Wednesday afternoon, as Bader stays hot with a three-run shot in the first inning. And Volpe has a mean grand slam for two reasons. One, because it ran up the score, and two, because it was the first home run that I have not seen live from Anthony Volpe. That made me a little bit sad, but the Yankees do what good clubs and better exterminators do by cleaning out the cellar dwellers of the AL.
Damn. Had to do them dirty like that. I mean, they did themselves dirty, so can't fault you there.
This is the worst major league team I've seen. And I've seen a lot from just going as a kid. The cheapest games you go to, like low side, like Washington Nationals against the Mets, Baltimore Orioles against the Yankees, like a lot of those really bad teams. I think this was the worst team I've seen.
And it's sad too because not too long ago, like we faced them in 2018 in the wild card.
Yeah.
That was a pretty damn good team, and it did feel like a nervous environment to be in because like the Coliseum when packed is very intimidating. And they've had some fantastic players throughout the year, but it's a shame that they operate the way that they do. They've shed pretty much all of their significant payroll. So, like, what do you expect to happen when you have a team that's full of a bunch of essentially AAA and AA players? You've got some talent on there. Like Brent Rooker looks fantastic. I think he's a guy that is going to inevitably be traded at some point, unless they somehow decide to, pull a Brian Reynolds with him and, extend him at some point or
Can
another.
I
But
talk about him quick?
please, yeah, go by all
He's
means.
the nicest guy.
Really?
I was in like the third row in left field, like the Waldo, Glaber, and DJ homers were all like Waldo was to our right and DJ and Glaber went right to our left. Like all the homers were around us. So we were right behind Rooker where he was playing the whole game. From the first inning, he was having a catch with like five different kids. Like that was warm up for the inning in the first row. Um, we were all facetiously being like, hey, come to the Yankees. You're great. You can come in for Hicks, talk to Billy Bean. And then we started shitting on like how we have running water and the A's don't. But he was the nicest man. He was chatting it up with us whenever we said something funny. He'd turn around and he'd like tip his cap. Super awesome guy. So I wish the best for him to not be in Oakland, seriously, because like you said, he seems like a nice up and comer and a good trade piece for them, which is all they really value their players as being at this point, just assets, not winners.
Dude, I mean, imagine him in this lineup, like after the All-Star break. That would be
Unironically, yeah.
pretty dangerous. I mean, this is a guy that could potentially end top five in MVP voting. But if he stays in Oakland, that's not going to really go anywhere because he has zero support. So he's kind of carrying the weight himself. And they do have a few other talented players. Langoliers is really cool. Um, Mason Miller is going to be a stud, although I know that he's dealing with some forearm tightness right now, which is very unfortunate because stuff wise, he's up there with Spencer Strider and Jacob DeGrom. But this team really is, like you said, at the bottom of the barrel or basement dwellers in the sense that like there really is no significant signs of improvement. Like they clearly have been tanking for a while to try to get to Las Vegas, which mission accomplished. Good for you. But at the same time, you've probably
In
lost more
theory,
than yeah. You've
they haven't
lost.
signed yet. They have issues.
It's crazy. But yeah, I think this was a series that the Yankees ultimately needed because they were in quite a rough patch before that. And they were playing some really tough teams and losing with the injured players, stacking up. And this was just one to kind of, use as a factory reset button. And they did exactly what they needed to do. And it's the first time all season that they actually got the series sweep. And It's crazy to say that because they went longer than any other team without losing a series, and they never actually won a series with conviction up until that point. So I think we saw the tides turn quickly, especially with the Bader and Judge returns.
Yeah, and the Yankees did what you have to do against the A's. One, by sweeping them. Two, by sweeping them and getting by with some of your bottom players, maybe getting some hits and getting through your relievers. Like, I think the Yankees won a game. I'd have to look at it, but it was like Clark, or it was Brito to like Abreu to Weissert. You know, I think Clay got in that game, but they used three of their Nick Martinez pitched in the game, like in that same game. So the Yankees were able to string through together like their lower end talent. I mean, Hicks, I didn't even mention him in game one that I was at, but he hit the shit out of a ball like a laser to right field that we just hadn't seen. And I think um, Hicks has kind of used that as maybe as a starting point. You know, he's not going to tear the cover off the ball, but now he's not automatic outs in the lineup now. And we'll see that in the Rays and the Jays series that we go over. Same thing with Volpe getting a power stroke. I mean, just alleviating some of these arms as we went through an 11 game stretch without any off days. I think that was a big deal for the Yankees to win each of these games convincingly. The only one that was close was game one for about 4 innings. It was Sears and Nestor were both going shutout. And then the Yankees were able to turn the tides quickly because the A's have no depth. They really have no known names coming into this year. And now I know Langoliers, who's been pretty solid behind the plate. Rooker has crazy numbers out of nowhere this year. I mean, he is at a 300 batting average with a 186 OPS plus. You mentioned MVP votes. I don't think there's a chance because the team is so bad, but he has a 1.7 WAR through a month and a half, and that's pretty high. Like at this rate, he's putting up a 6 to 7 WAR season on a bad team, and this is a guy who lifetime has an OPS plus of under 100 before this year, and he's at 120 including this year with a 190 OPS. So
I've watched a lot of his film of late, and it turns out he's one of the students of Teacher Man, and Teacher Man's the same guy that worked with Judge. So he's all about snapping the barrel in place early on before like he actually gets to the point of contact. So like rather than snapping the barrel out in front, he's snapping the barrel back and he's traveling through the zone a lot longer. So if you watch a lot of like play-by-play slow motion, reminds me a lot of a righty Matt Olson, which kind of checks out because they came from the same organization. I think that this dude has a very, very strong MLB career. He's only going to get better. It's just a matter of which team he ends up with at the end of the day. But I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if we see a few more, like Seth Brown's also another one of those guys on that talented. So they're going to pump out players like this, but their talent's ultimately going to get wasted being on a lineup that's constructed the way that it is.
He's super interesting contract wise because he's pre-arb right now, but he's 28 years old because he went to college. And he was a late first round pick coming out of Mississippi State, but he was a 3 or 4 year guy. And then it took him a little while to really get going to find his footing in the major leagues. But he's 28. I mean, he's approaching, this year he's on his pre-arb deal of $725K. So are the A's looking as like, all right, you're a piece for the future when we intend to get good towards the end of his arbitration? Or do they shift him for some top prospects now while a team's in win mode? I mean, at this production, him being a left field DH is a pretty solid option for many teams. So I don't know, or do they keep him on an ARB deal because he's giving them such production at low value? Like how, I don't know. It's hard to get inside the mind of a team that's just trying to cut cost.
Yeah, either way, I think they can get a significant prospect return out of him. It just depends on if they want to pull the trigger or not. And one more thing about his numbers. You said he has a 1.7 WAR. Just to put that into perspective, we love Brian Reynolds. We were big fans of him all offseason. We wanted the Yankees to get him up until he signed his contract extension. His total WAR last season was 2.9. So the fact that he's only 1.2 off of that number right now, and it's not even June, like the dude might end up with a 5-6 WAR easy, and that's a superstar. So that's someone that a lot of teams are going to be interested in.